Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Greg. I just want to go ahead and talk with you something quick. And here we go. What I'm going to share with you a couple things is that we're going to talk to you about the problem that's been brewing, and the problem that's brewing is that they're actually going to have this thing, which is called it's the Executive Order number 213. And Executive Order 213, what that is that pretty much I'm going to go ahead and show you that. I can find out which camera of mine is it. Executive Order. Of course, this one. All right, here we go. This is the one I want to share. This is not the order, but this is actually one of Kathy Hochul's proposals for the city. And one of the things that I want to just kind of share with you before I'm just going to go ahead and share with you the 213 and get right to the point with that. Pretty much, this is executive order. I'm going to go ahead and show you this here. This is my Windows. Executive order number 213. It's June 29th, 2021. Right. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has severely impacted New York City and its economy, as is addressed effectively only by joint action of the state, city, and federal governments, and whereas a state of emergencies to address the threat and impacts of COVID-19 in the city of New York, first declared in Emergency Executive Order number 98, and extended more recent by Emergency Executive Order 212 remains in effect, and whereas this order is given because of the propensity of the virus to spread person to person, and also because the actions taken to prevent such spread have led to property loss and damage. Now, therefore, pursuant to the powers vested in me by the laws of the state of New York and the city of New York, including but not limited to the New York Executive Law and New York City Charter and Administrative Code of the City of New York, and the Common Law Authority to protect the public in the event of an emergency, which is another job, by the way. Section 1 hereby directed the Section 1 and 2 of Emergency Executive Order number 211, dated June 24, 2021, or extended for 1 day. And 2, I hereby direct the fire and police departments to the Department of Buildings, the sheriff, and other agencies as needed. You don't remember? Oh, okay. Need to enforce the directives set forth in this order in accordance with their lawful authorities, including Administrative Code Section 15-227 and Section A 28-105.10.1 and 28-201-1 and Section 107.6 of the Fire Code. Violations of the directives set forth in this order may be issued if there were violations under the Health Code Section 3 and Section 3.1 and enforced by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene of any other agencies. This emergency executive order shall take effect immediately and shall remain in effect for 1 day unless it is terminated or modified at an earlier date. So this is the executive order number 213, right? So that's it from the mayor's office. Now what we're going to go ahead and do, and we're going to go ahead and read this thing right here, Quarantine Isolation Law, reinstated after appellate decision. This is from Times Union. Court found GOP petitioners is lack standing to bring case on involuntary isolation. What it says is a rule that allowed the state health department to lawfully order someone to involuntarily isolate or quarantine to control a highly contagious disease such as COVID-19 has been reinstated in a unanimous decision by a mid-level appellate court, right? The ruling by the Fourth Judicial Department, which has jurisdiction in 22 counties in central and western New York, overturns a decision last year by a Supreme Court justice in Cattaraugus County, who found the rules violates the constitutional requirements for separation of powers between the legislative and executive branch when promulgating the rules as severe as involuntary isolation. Involuntary isolation, by the way. Right, involuntary isolation. A Republican petitioner said that they plan to appeal the decision to the state court. By the way, what date is this? This is November 20th, 2023. Okay, so this is a quarantine isolation reinstated after appellate decision, that division decision. So go back to our reading before. It said Republican petitioner said that they plan to appeal the decision to the state court of appeals and the state's highest court. The GOP officials, in a joint statement, expressed concern that the case could create precedent for overreaching into policymaking, which, of course, it does. Remember, governors cannot make laws. Okay, they cannot make laws. The appellate division decides. Now, see, the thing is, it doesn't make sense, right? When you kind of put what it says in the Order 213 and what it says, what they're saying is happening. I'm going to read on and let you hear what it says. The appellate division decision to overthrow the lower court's ruling was issued last week Friday, and based on a technical issue with a lawsuit filed by Republican lawmakers and an organization. The court found that the GOP officials and the organizations did not sufficiently establish why they were so severely harmed, and that the trial court failed to adequately rule on the merits of whether the petitioner had a right to bring the case in the first place. The panel pointed to landmark state case, the Court of Appeals decision on separation of powers by Silver versus Pataki in 2001, case on the budget power between Assembly and the governor. Right? The crazy. All right. All right. Cool. So this is let's see. To establish the right to bring a case, a legislator generally falls into one of three categories: lost political battles, nullification of votes, and the usurpation of power, which is the decision of the Silver versus Pataki. Only circumstances presented by the latter two categories confer legislative standing. The Republican lawmaker states, State Senator General George Borrello, Assemblyman Chris Taug, and U.S. Representative Mike Lawler, who was a member of the Assembly at the time of the filing, argued that legislative powers were usurped from them by the office of Governor Kathleen Hochul, which issued the isolation rule last year. The court disagreed with the GOP members. The state legislature retains its power to address the regulation. The panel wrote about the body controlled by the Democratic supermajority. In July of 2022, State Supreme Court Justice Ronald D. Politz ruled that the isolation rule violated the constitutional requirements for a separation of powers between the two branches of government. He noted it has not been enacted by the state legislature, but by the administration of the then Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to respond to the escalating coronavirus pandemic. Involuntary detention is a severe deprivation of individuals' liberty, far more egregious than other health safety measures, such as requiring mask wearing at certain venues. Politz says, far more egregious than other health safety measures, such as requiring mask wearing at certain venues. Politz says, the Republican officials, in a joint statement, described the rule as a calamitous decision. This has been a David versus Goliath fight from the beginning and on many levels, so it's not surprising that the state, within its limited resources, has effectuated a win this round. The GOP state, as you says, we will never stop fighting for New Yorkers against government overreach. Right, so that's there with that one. So in the things that first, New York began to automate speed tickets for I-87, I-84. Think about that. You know, it's Thanksgiving weekend, right? Quarantine, isolation law reinstated, reversing GOP win. So I'm going to read you the one that's a little bit clearer to hear, and that's this. This one's for that one. This one. Okay, here it goes. This one here is from the Albany, and this is 1 day ago, which is today's the 22nd, and the 1 day goes the 21st. Albany, New York news. Court decision that deemed New York State isolation and quarantine procedures unconstitutional has been reversed. A measure that took effect during the pandemic gave the Commissioner of Health the power to direct local health authorities to issue isolation and quarantine orders to control the spread of highly communicable diseases. See, not just only CV, we're talking about other things as well. And see, that's what the government overreach. You know? Here we go. Little did we know that the legislature had been circumvented, and the governor had to put it in as a public health law, said Assemblyman Chris Taug, T-A-G-U-E. Taug, two other Republican lawmakers, and the organizing called United New York NYS, United States, New York State, Uniting New York States, filed a lawsuit against the governor, the New York State Department of Health, and the New York Attorney General, saying it's overstepped the separation of powers. And yes, it has. We filed a suit, went to court, and we won in Cattaraugus County, explained Taug. Let's see, T-A-G-U-E, Taug, I guess, Taug. Let's see, I guess, vague, Bog, Taug. The court in July of 2022 decided the isolation and quarantine law was unconstitutional. However, the case was appealed, and a judge recently reinstated it, saying that those who brought the case didn't meet the qualification to bring the case forward under state law. Technicality. The court document stated The legislator petitioned failure to fulfill the injury, in fact, requirement to establish standing. See, this is why corruption happens, because they take a simple thing and they make it into a really horrible thing. We have no standing in the case. We are all residents in New York State, and we're all residents in the state of New York, and we're all affected by a rule like this, to Tog. According to Tog, unlike or Tig, unlike the previous ruling, this one wasn't about the merits of the case. His lawyer is now in the process of filing paperwork for the courts of appeal. When asked for a statement, the New York State Department on Health said, "We do not comment on ongoing litigation." The governor's office and attorney general's office did not respond to requests for comment. There you have it, folks. There you have it. There you have it. So, okay, so sum it up real quick for the first one. The quarantine isolation law reinstated after appellate decision. They reinstated the law, which means that they can come into your house and take you if they think you're sick. If they think you're sick. Now, see, it doesn't say this. It doesn't say this. Whereas the state of emergency addressed the threat and impacts of COVID-19. See, Executive Order 98. Just all these things you got to kind of read through between the lines. But what it says is this right here. I direct the fire departments, police departments, departments of buildings, the sheriff, and other agencies as needed to enforce the directive as set forth in this order in accordance with their lawful authorities, include the administrative code sections, right? Fire code violations of the directiveness set forth in the order may issue. They were violations in health code and enforced by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene of any other agency. The emergency order shall be taken effect immediately and shall remain in effect for 1 day, unless it's terminated or modified at an earlier date. So I mean, like, and that was Bill de Blasio, the mayor. He signed that one. And this is the office of the mayor. This is how is this? How is this the same thing? Hold on, I gotta check that emergency executive order. Okay, you know what? They mixed up the orders. This is mixed up the orders. I'm looking at stupid. What's the name? All right, yeah, yes, that's my fault. I gotta go look at the other one. Sorry about that, folks. Go look at the other one. So in this order here, let's go ahead and look at the order, the one that's here. You see, I'm reading this stupid other guy, and you see what happens when you don't pay attention. All right, so we got to go back to this one. This is Executive Order 213. Why did that one pop up when I asked for an executive order? You see the machine? The machine's up to get you. Okay, so there was an order that wasn't instated. This is one, but this is not an order from the governor. This is one from the mayor. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look, see what we have here. Let's go ahead and find this here. Um, the state overturned a decision. Let's go ahead and look this up here real quick. Regulations void. This is the one, the article there. All right, hopefully this will pop up. Times Union. Let's see what I did with it. I searched this out here. Executive order. And this one popped up. For 5 days. Open this one up real quick. All right. Vaccine. Executive orders. MSM. Wow. Continue to. Okay, so let's see. Hopefully this one opened up. Nope, it hasn't opened up yet. See, if you guys want to support me in uh a like or whatever, go ahead. You might like that. Go ahead and send me a super chat. Okay. All right. So I'm back in a second. Let's see. I need you to open up. Come on, open up. All right. So while that one's looking for that one. Okay. Emergency executive order. Order 213. Okay. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Okay. Here. This. Okay. This is Eric Adams. All right. So here goes Eric Adams. Emergency Executive Order 213. Everybody's 213. Whereas there currently an outbreak of the monkeypox virus that poses a significant risk to public health and continues to expand and evolve worldwide, including within the United States. So, like, how many executive order 213s are there? Okay. Whereas on July 23rd, 2023, the world declared that monkeypox outbreak a public health emergency. Yabba dabba doo. Whereas the city and all its agencies are prepared to continue to respond to monkeypox and are committed to protecting the health and well-being of all New Yorkers, which is im- um, imperiled by the person-to-person spread of monkeypox. And whereas additional resources for requiring the measure continue to the set forth Executive Order number 115 dated August 1st, 2022, where a state of emergency related to monkeypox declared in Emergency Executive Order 115, 188. Okay, therefore, pursuant to the powers vested in me by the laws of the state of New York and the city of New York, including but not limited to New York Executive Law. I mean, they just say the same thing. New York City Charter. We got to look into these people, actually. All these people here. These New York Charter and Administrative Code of the city of New York. These are the ones we need to look into. Because apparently these might be the people who run the country or run the state. The common law authorized to protect the public and the common law authority to protect the public in the event of emergency. I hereby order Section 1 of Emergency Executive Order number 208, dated September 17, 2022, is extended 5 days. The emergency executive order shall take effect immediately and shall remain in effect for 5 days unless it's terminated or modified to an earlier date. So you have Eric Adams saying the same thing like the other one. So you have that one, Eric Adams saying this one, and you have oh yeah, this one, this executive order 213. This is executive order. Both of them have the same executive order. Isn't this interesting? Huh? Learning something by the minute. Okay, so what happens? Let's go. Judge declares COVID-19 isolation and quarantine regulation void. Now, what's her 213? Kathy Hochul is joined by Health Commissioner Dr. Mary T. Bassett Wright for an update on the state progress combating COVID-19 on Monday, March 21st, 2022, during a press conference at the David Axelrod Institute in Albany, New York. Last week, a state Supreme Court ruled that the state's isolation and quarantine procedures are unenforceable. Its decision that could impact the management of the future health crisis. A state Supreme Court justice in Western New York ruled that the state's new minted isolation and quarantine procedures were produced by unconstitutional process. In a case brought by 3 Republican state legislators, state Supreme Court justices, Ronald Plotz of Cattaraugus County shut down Rule 213. So now it's Rule 213. Okay, let's take a look at Rule 213, shall we? Okay, we have this one. We have this one. It's a rule. Plug the sucker right in here. Paste. Rule. Let's search for Rule 213. And what comes up is okay, we'll let that cook for a second. Which states that whenever appropriate to control the spread of a highly contagious communicable disease, the state's health commissioner may issue and or direct local health officials to issue isolation and or quarantine orders consistent with due process of law to all such persons as the state commissioner of health shall determine appropriate. Full control, baby. In his opinion, Plot said the rule enacted in February gave only lip service to constitutional due process. He declared it to be a violation of state law and therefore null, void, and unenforceable. The judge says the law could convincingly grant the commissioner the power to force anyone into isolation. Highlight that. The judge said the law conceivably granted the commissioner the power to force anyone into isolation or quarantine despite lack of evidence of the person's affected with COVID-19. Involuntary detention is a severe deprivation of individual liberty, far more egregious than any other state health measures, such as requiring masks at certain venues. He wrote, involuntary quarantine may have far-reaching consequences, loss of income or employment, and isolation from family. The case was brought by Senator George Borrello of Chautauqua County, as well as Assembly members Chris Tig of and Michael, a lawyer of Rockland County. The defendants include Kathy Hochul, New York Commissioner of Health Mary T. Bassett and her agency, and the state's Public Health and Health Planning Council. These people have power. In the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, the legislature amended executive law and gave the governor broad powers. You see this? You see this? You see it right here? The law and gave the governor broad powers to suspend laws and issue directives through executive order. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, in turn, modified public health law to give the health commissioner the ability to enact emergency regulations. Oh my word! See how they broke the law? It says, okay, let's suspend your rights as a human. To come to the decision, employees considered whether the agency did more than balance costs and benefits according to the pre-existing guidelines, whether the agency filled in details of a broad policy, whether the legislator has successfully tried to reach agreement on the issue, and whether the agency used specific expertise or competence in the field, developed the challenged regulation. It is unclear whether the case could be headed for appeal. A representative for the governor did not immediately respond to requests for comment. All right, so here it goes. You have that. That's one. Let's go back to what we were looking at before a second ago. Executive Order 213. Okay, that was Executive Order 213. That's one. This one here, it didn't open up when we looked for the search. So let's go click it and then try it again. Come back to you. And one of the things I was looking at here was this the state of the state. This is January 1st of 2023. Achieving the New York State dream, state of New York, state of state, achieving the New York dream. All right, the New York dream. Okay, what happens is the Constitution of New York State requires the governor to deliver an annual message of the legislature regarding the state of the state. The state of the state proposals are the first step in defining the government's agenda in 2023. Additional policies and funding details will be included in the upcoming governor's executive budget. There is I'm going to read you what it says real quick. It says my fellow New Yorkers, after 3 very difficult, tragic, painful, and uncertain years, I'm proud to say that the state of our state today is improving, but we have work to do. What that means. A review of last year demonstrated that the face of the immense hardship and uncertainty we endured, we proved that that New York may get knocked down, but we are always get back up. Because of that, I am optimistic about the upcoming year and the future. We still have some big challenges ahead, but the fight to do what is right is always worth pursuing. I'm steeled by the knowledge that if we come together, I don't know what they mean by come together. I mean, if we're supposed to be individuals, how do we come together? Want to vote for their favor? I don't know. Let me not read into stuff. I am still by the knowledge that if we come together in this pivotal moment, and those of us in positions of power do what needs to be done for the people of New York, our shared potential as state and the New Yorker is limitless. I believe that deeply because I believe that in people of New York, when we are united, there is no stopping us. I mean, do we vote for the people to come into our states? Do we vote for that? I mean, do we say yes, come on in? Do we vote for the city bikes? Do we vote for the taxing? Do we vote for? We don't vote for that. How do we come together when these people make laws and they go ahead and they're things ahead of us? They're supposed to represent us. I mean, there's has to look into this whole representative government situation. When it comes to when it comes to the intractable problems we still face, we are strong, stable footing and to take on them. Now, I'm not going to read you the entire thing, but there was one line in this that made me really think. I'm going to skip right to it when I was reading it. It was one of the things that says this. It says right here. It says the great Francis Perkins, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's labor secretary, once said, "A government should aim to give all the people under its jurisdiction the best possible life. That is it. That is the job. That is what we are here to do." No, that's not what they're here to do. They're supposed to leave us alone. The goal of a government is to leave us alone and protect our God-given rights. That's what we're supposed to do. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, they should get the heck out of our life and stop taxing the wazoo out of us because they're thinking that they're supposed to be our parents. Governments are, it's like, we are the government. The people are the government. And what happens is that the people vote the government into power. So it's like, you make a servant, like you make a robot, right? A little robot that you have. Let me bring one of my creatures out for you. You make a little creature, right? And so what happens? Imagine you go ahead and you make a creature. You make a little creature. And so as you make this here, you form this little creature, and this creature now is supposed to be served you as the guest master. I want a cup of water. Go give me a cup of water. And then all of a sudden there's there's 2 of them now, because what happens when you have a gremlin, you go from having just like come back with a cup of water, now you have 2 gremlins. But the thing is, like, what happens is that you have a situation where you made this creature, and the creature is supposed to serve you as the powerful entity. You are the master, and this is the slave, creature. And what happens is that they're supposed to serve you. Now, when the creature starts saying, you know what? Let me tell you what you should have. I'm not going to give you water. I'm going to give you some soda instead. Oh yeah, and I'm not going to give you water. I'm going to give you whatever I feel like it. Ha 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 ha. But we're serving you. Like, no, you're not serving me right. You're serving me how you want. You serve. No, stop, stop, stop. Ah! That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. We create monsters. Monsters take over. That's exactly what happens. That's saying you're a monster. Yes, I know. I know. Yes, yeah, yeah, that's okay. This one here is Croc, Croc, Doctor Croc, or Croc Doc, or Doctor Croc, whatever. So long story short, what I'm saying is that you have the scenario, the situation. The problem is that when we look into the fact of the matter is that they are not doing what they're saying they're doing. They're not doing what they're saying. They're doing something else. They are in the midst of working out many plans against us. So let me go back to that real quick. Let me show you. So the government should aim to give all the people under its jurisdiction the best possible life, which is to leave us the heck alone. So right now it goes in here, and that's what we're here to do. No, no, no. So the question we must all ask ourselves is: Are New Yorkers living their best possible lives? If the answer is no, then we have more work to do. What do you mean we have more work to do? You have less work to do. You can get out of our way. The reality is that dream is our out of reach for too many New Yorkers. It does not seem attainable for too many people living here or considering coming here. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. You see this right here, this whole thing. If you ever want a chance to read it, go ahead and find it yourself. Right here, it's the New York State and Achieving the New York State Dream. You can look that up. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because this stuff is poison. This stuff really is poison, and I'm done with the poisoning of the aspect of it all. I just want to just give a shout out that Executive Order 213 is back in effect. That means that if you are sick, what happens? They think you're sick. They can actually take you out of your house and put you in prison involuntarily. So just remember that. Next time you go voting and you vote for a blue, no matter who, just remember that these people do not care about you. They care about themselves. And I said it once upon a time to somebody, and I got into a lot of trouble for that because what happened? Somebody said to me that I was talking to them and I really when I said that people don't care about you, it was such a shock because maybe at that time wasn't true, right? But what is true is that you have a scenario where, in general, the people who are in power in New York or in the country, who are in power in general, usually, they have their agenda. They're not going to give up, and then give up what they have so they can serve you and your whims and your fancy. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, people in power, the first thing they fear is losing that power because if they lose their power, they're not in power anymore. That means the person else. I mean, imagine you get overtaken by a bully, you know? You go in there as a leader and somebody knows better than you do, they're gonna stifle you. They're gonna stifle your ability to do stuff. So first thing you gotta do is establish your leadership, your power, right? And I read all the different things from John Maxwell and things and all his stories. And one thing I find about was like people are um, they are able to they can figure out how to overtake you. So the thing is like what you gotta do, you gotta go and be humble. Jesus said that he wants to be leader of all, he needs to be servant of all. I'm working on something. You're here. He wishes to be leader of all, must be servant of all. He says, the greatest person amongst you is a servant. And so the thing is like what has happened is that they've taken the Bible says about how the Gentiles how they lord their power. They lord their power over you, and what they do is that they go ahead and they use their power for themselves. So that's what the Gentiles do. They go out there and they do their stuff. But for the most part, though, what I was saying is that if you want to be a leader and you have power, you love people, you care about them, you serve them. And if a doctor is going to fight, he's not going to give up his law license, his medical license, so he can bow to your fancy. If you can find a doctor who are willing to do that, you find a good doctor. But if a doctor is a doctor, they went through what 8 years of school, another 4 years of residency, just so they can become what we call a doctor, and billions of dollars are worth of bills, right? So what happens is that you have that, then you're faced with a scenario where if you challenge that, they lose their livelihood. How are they going to pay their bills? So it comes down to ideology. People call that a cop out if you don't do it. You won't do it. But the thing is, like at the bottom of the end of the day, you're going to have to work. And so what I'm saying is this, right? Executive Order 213. It just shows you that they're willing to put us into quarantine. They don't care about your life or situation, and I think they're really possessed. Honestly, I'm coming to the conclusion that to be a liberal is not to see the future. Is for you not to see the future, for you not to be able to put your understanding into I can't even see this. Can't even put your understand. Ooh, can't even put your understanding into the scenario that you're in. So what end up happening is that you can't see the future, and because you can't see the future, you're willing to go ahead with whatever sounds good now. Now, I mean, I would hate to be mayor. I would hate to be a mayor or any of the ruling classes, because what ends up happening is that when you think about it, it's like you're putting yourself in a position, but then they volunteered for that. They wanted to be in that position. They put themselves there, or maybe the ruling elites put them there. Anyway, long story short, let me go ahead and end this thing. Just want to say thank you so much for watching my show, and just a couple thoughts there for executive order. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best. Definitely don't get sick. Don't get sick in public, okay? Don't get sick in public. They'll take you in hostage, apparently. So remember that, and just remember that the bikes are don't ride city bikes. If you can, don't do it. Just go do something else, right? And I was going to show you back again the last video of the thing. It never opened up. The one I was looking for never opened up. But there it is. This one, the one I showed before was this one. This is the one. Quarantine isolation law reinstated after appellate division decision. I wish you all the best. God bless you. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you soon. Alrighty. Bye.